This week on TWiP, streaming video seems like it's all the rage. Should still photographers care? Should they be getting into it? Also, the Out of Chicago conference is coming up once again. We're going to talk about all that and more. TWiP episode 506 starts now. This is TWiP. Hey folks, welcome back to another episode of This Week in Photo. I'm your host, Frederick Van Johnson. Joining me on today's show to shoot the breeze about all things photography are Mr. Chris Smith from the Out of Chicago conference and Mr. Photo Joseph from, all kinds of stuff. The Photo Joseph YouTube channel. He's got a school. He's a Lumix luminaire all over the place. So we've got quite the brain power on tonight's episode. Welcome, gentlemen.
Thank you. Yeah, we'll see about that. The brain power. We'll see.
Don't try to lower the bar so you can jump over it. I understand.
All right.
Ooh,
We'll meet it.
That's a good line. Don't lower the bar so you can jump over it. Remember that one.
Yeah, that's I'm not taking that bait either, because that can go down that road we were talking about earlier. Low bars and all that. All right, guys. So let's dive into Chris Smith, man.
Hey.
I haven't seen you since the last time I was out at the Out of Chicago conference, which is what you built and what we're going to be talking about a little bit on tonight's show. What's been going on?
What has been going on? Well, this year will be the 5th annual Out of Chicago Summer Conference, and we started adding other crazy ones. I mean, at one point we went to New York City. But last year we added a landscape photography specific one where we went to Acadia National Park. This year we're going to Moab. We're going to shoot arches and canyon lands, and we're also going to do one just focused on garden and flower photography, which sounds crazy, but it's going to be amazing. Yeah,
that's great. And I got a note from you. I think I recalled not too long ago you telling me that you left your day job because at one point Out of Chicago was just kind of like, I think I want to try this conference thing, and now you had one little toe in the water, and now you're like backstroking in the water.
Yeah, it was kind of like, it was Out of Chicago was my blog. It was like, okay, here's my pictures of Chicago, and the next thing it was some workshops, and then it was, let's try it as a conference, and whoa, this really was fun. And then I'm like, well, I don't need to go to my other job anymore, do I? Yeah. So, I was teaching high school for 17 years, and now this is the second school year I'm not teaching and just doing this full time and making these events as good as we can.
Oh, that's cool. Yeah, there's a lot I want to talk to you about that. Like, do you miss the students? Do you miss the student body, or are the photographers substituting?
I'd say I miss about 5% of them. Yeah. So to you 5% out there, I miss you guys.
5%. The ones that would just call in sick every day. I miss you guys. No.
I mean, I really had great kids. I had some great kids, but so it was really more the other way around. 5% that I don't miss, but but no, I really love what I'm doing now. So I remember talking with Art Wolf about this, and he said, I love teaching, and I was teaching high school. I said, well, I love teaching too, except sometimes. And he said, well, what I really love about it is that every single person wants to be there and wants to learn. Whereas you're teaching high school, it's like a few of them wanted to be there. And so now I'm teaching all photography and everybody wants to be there. It's great.
Yeah, that's great. Well, having been a high school student in Chicago, I can sympathize with you wanting to get away from it. So,
yeah. Well, I wasn't in the city of Chicago. I was in a pretty nice neighborhood, but yeah.
I was. I could tell you stories about taking different routes to school every day just to make it to school. All right. Also on the show is Mr. Joseph. I keep wanting to call you by your full name, Joseph. Because I think I like saying your last name. It has a cadence to it. So
you just like it because you're one of the few people that can pronounce it and spell it, which is remarkable. So you're just showing off. But other than that,
so Photo Joseph,
Yes,
Joseph
sir.
is on the show from the Joseph. When people introduce you, like I was saying in the intro, there's so many things that you do. What's the anchor that you like to be known as? Is it Lumix Luminary? Is it Photo Joseph from the YouTube channel? Is it lynda.com author?
It's not an easy question. It's funny actually. You say Lumix Luminary, but even that name has changed. We're now called Lumix Ambassadors. So
right.
So even there, if that was on the business cards, that would have to get changed.
Yeah.
No, I usually try to bring it down to 3 primary things. To kind of put 3 bullet points. And these days, it was first year photographer. And then it's like photographer and filmmaker. And then I did the whole photographic storyteller genre, which I really like. I think that was a really good way to describe what I did. But it also even though that included video, it wasn't explicit that it included video. So then you're like, okay, well, it's a photographer and filmmaker, a videographer, what can you want? So these days I just say content creator. When it comes to production of images, video, word, recorded word, spoken word, whatever, that's all content. So it's content creation. So it's content creator, YouTuber, and educator. Those are the 3 bullets that I now use. What do you think? Okay. You're the expert in the marketing. What do you think? Does that work?
I do like it. I've struggled with that as well. I mean, content creator, I think, is the best. You know, because especially in this generation now with YouTube and the whole coining of the phrase YouTube creator. So having creator on there is now, you know, it's less religious, I think. So you can just
a creator.
Yes, yeah. Earth and things on it are the original content, right? So so now, yeah, content creator, I think that's really good. Or you could just go back, because, you know, in the end, everything is just capturing light, right? So photographer or whatever. But I like it.
Light. I'm a light capturer.
Light. Yeah.
That one to somebody who has no idea what you're talking about.
I know. Photons, right? All right, guys. There's a couple things I want to talk about tonight. The first thing is just video in general online, and I want to take a couple different stabs at that. And Joseph, this is one of the main reasons why you're here, and that's because you're kind of hanging your hat on the streaming, like the direction of streaming, which has just been exploding recently, both in terms of availability of streaming platforms and tools available, etc. So I want to talk about that in conjunction with live streaming. Yeah, exactly. In conjunction with the GH5S, and you're now an ambassador for Lumix, right? So and you just got your hands on a GH5S, as you were on your YouTube channel bragging about. Exactly.
For those watching on video, there it is.
Whatever. I don't even want to hear about it. So, I want to talk about that. I want to talk about that whole world. Chris Smith, before we dive into Mr. I Have Everything, piece of gear known to man, Photo Joseph.
That one, yes.
Yeah, let's talk about us normal mortals over here. So,
exactly.
You know, and I want to couch this in terms of like a conference type environment. Like when I go to a conference now, I think we did a show a while back on This Week in Photo. We were talking about photography conferences and is it worth it to fly all the way out there and get a hotel room and, you know, the meals and all that stuff. And then the net of it was, yes, it is, because you can't replace camaraderie with a screen and hanging out and in the hallway chats and, you know, having drinks with people that you've only met online before, those kind of things. So the intangibles. But when you overlay video in the direction that video streaming is going in that, do you see that adding another facet to Out of Chicago? For example, in the future, do you see you saying, you know, hey, we're adding a live stream to the event or to the classes so that if you can't make it, pay X dollars and you could sit in, you know?
Right. Well, that's a great question. It's something we kind of struggle with because we've talked about doing the live stream or simply just videoing all the classes and then making them available to people. But as far as what you just said, if we were to show that to other people, they'd go, oh, it just looks like a bunch of presentations. But what we offer people is so much more than that. And it's not just the camaraderie. It's the fact that it's in the heart of Chicago and you're photographing the city and you're getting to do it. You take the class from, you know, whoever it is, maybe it's Photo Joseph, and you learn how to do it. And then you go out and shoot in the streets and you do it. So to present that to people, they're not getting the experience at all. They're just like, oh, this is some boring conference. So I don't know. I kind of would rather just make it, this is special. This is for us. This is the people that are in this room. If I tell a stupid joke, that's just for us and nobody else. And so, and it's not like it's going out to the rest of the world. So it's something we struggle with and we've thought about it. But for right now, it's a special, intimate thing just for the people that are there.
That's interesting. Yeah. And I think that's increasingly being lost today, right? That kind of interaction, as you know, it's the double-edged sword, right, of social media. You can meet all these people and interact with these niche groups that have the same or dealing with the same kind of issues that you are or have the same interests that you are, and they could be scattered all over the planet, but you still lose that tangible, you know, shaking hands, you know.
Right. I mean, someone that watches Photo Joseph every single day and watches the show, they're like, oh, this is great, I love it. But then to actually come and, you know, go out to lunch with them and whatever else, I mean, to go shoot with them, I mean, it's a completely different experience, and that's what we're trying to make.
Yeah, and in person, you would never know that Photo Joseph is only 5'2", right? So on the stream, he's standing on a stool right now. You would never.
I'm not saying anything.
Exactly. No, Joseph is not short like that.
I'm not
Joseph,
that short.
Joseph, what do you think? So we're going to get into the Out of Chicago conference a little bit later in the show, and I know you're speaking there, so I want to talk about that a little bit. But I'm going to give you the same question about streaming and the, I don't know the best way to put it. It's like the double-edged sword of you could reach masses of people with streaming versus a finite number of people in person. Which is better? Is one better than the other, or should we try to merge them together, or what's the solution?
It's not a case of one being better than the other. They're just different things for different people. And the huge thing about live streaming, especially over something like YouTube, that's a free platform to the viewers, is it's democratizing, right? Anybody can see it. Anybody who can get their hands on a computer or a smartphone can see and get that education for free. Mm-hmm. And that's a huge, huge part of live streaming. I can sit here every morning like I do and do a show, and people from all over the world who couldn't possibly get on a plane and fly out to a conference because they don't have the time, they don't have the money, they're young and just getting started, and a $10,000 plane ticket is the last thing on their mind. But to be able to get that type of education and experience, and there is still a camaraderie, especially like for my live show. There's a number of people that are there every single episode, or just about every episode. And there's a camaraderie, and they come in the morning before the show actually starts, and they're in the chat room. Hey, how's it going? What have you been up to? How's that project you're working on? And they have their own friendship, their own relationship that's happening there. But that is fantastic. It's wonderful that can happen. But of course, nothing can replace being there in person. But you can't be everywhere. Nobody can be everywhere. Nobody
we couldn't see you every single day. We couldn't see your show every day and do that. But we can at work and put it on in the background, right? But then once a year, let's get together and actually hang out in person. Precisely. I think that's the way to do it.
Yeah. Precisely. Yeah. And you were talking about, Frederick, those moments. I like to think of it as, or call them kind of an unplanned moment. There's the education in the classroom. Yes, we're going to sit down. We have an agenda. We're going to do this. And there's going to be happy accidents that happen in the classroom, or especially on a photo walk. Things that you weren't planning on that you get to experience, and that's great. But it's those in the hallway, like you said, or chatting at the bar later, like you said. It's those things that you could never replicate online. You could never replicate that through streaming. It's just a curious combination of events that bring these together, and then suddenly you're in the elevator with someone, and you have that opportunity to ask one question or say that thing, and overhear somebody else, and suddenly, oh my God, that's so cool. That right there just made this whole trip worth it.
Yeah.
That one little thing.
Yeah,
I hear that a lot.
Even from a business standpoint of like, hey, here's that vendor that both from business and from consumer, B2B and C2B, from a consumer to business standpoint, it's like, hey, there's that company that makes that camera I'm considering buying. I can actually talk to them now instead of sending a note or interacting with a questionable bot on their webpage. I can actually talk to them and look them in the eye and have that human interaction. Right. Or from a, go ahead, Chris.
Well, and those companies will be there. They'll have all the equipment too. So if someone wanted to try the new GH5S, not only can they try it like going into a camera store, but then they'd be like, hey, Photo Joseph, what's the button to do this or whatever? I mean, everything is right in front of you. Yeah.
That's interesting. Yeah. And Joseph, I want to transition a little bit into of course we have there's a countless number of people out there streaming on a countless number of topics right now, right? So streaming and the democratization of this kind of media distribution is available to anyone. All you need is a cell phone, basically. You could be doing stuff. You could be doing a show every day. You don't need a lot of gear like you have, or even I have, or even Chris has. So you're not doing this all the time. You could just stream from your phone, but what does that mean in terms of so we've got television, everything started back in the day with radio, and then we went to television, and then we went to on demand, and now we have live streaming. Should everyone be live streaming? I mean, should it just be, and I know it sounds weird, like, of course everyone shouldn't, but is live streaming going in a direction where it's like video and sending either video clips or live streaming or getting your message out that way is just normal instead of it being special for YouTube creators that are doing it. In other words, everybody should be doing it. Mom is cooking an apple pie. It should have just become normal in the kitchen for her to say, you know what, I'm going to tell the 45 people that follow my apple pie cooking to take a look. You know, are we going in that direction?
Well, we certainly can. And that's one of the cool things about being able to stream on a platform like YouTube, where you don't have to have a lot of money. In fact, as you pointed out, you can do this literally from a cell phone, and that's it. You got an Android, an iPhone, and you're good to go. That's all you need. So you can be up and running, no problem. If you have an audience, if you're NBC, CNN, whatever, you need to have an audience in the size of the millions to be profitable. If you're a YouTuber, first of all, profit may not even fit into the equation. It may not matter. If you're just having some fun, you just want to get your message out there. Your mom making the apple pie, you just want to share your apple pie recipe, and you can get that message out to 45 people in real time. There's some real power to that. That's really cool, and that's really fun for you, the creator, the chef, the whatever it is that you're doing on TV or on the live stream. And it doesn't matter if you have all these millions of people. You can do it to just a small number of them, and that's fantastic. Mm-hmm. Now, does that make for a better experience? And that's, I think, a big part of the live streaming part of it is, for a lot of people, it's just become a buzzword. Oh, I want to live stream. I can live stream. And if you watch most YouTubers, and I'm not coming down on anybody, but if you watch most YouTubers' videos, they're recorded videos. It is a series of rapid edits. They're cutting out every pause, every mistake. They're cutting all that out.
Right? Just jump cuts the whole way. Yeah.
Verbal
jump
ticks.
cuts all the way through.
It's the style.
It's the style, but it's also because the ability to form a coherent sentence after another live is not.
That's because of those Chicago teachers, man.
My bad. Sorry.
It's not an easy thing to do.
Yeah.
And so to be able to do live, a lot of people can do live, but they spend half the time staring at their screen. They spend half the time trying to think about what to say next. It's really hard to do a live show that is truly entertaining and truly interesting. So no, not everybody needs to go live. But then there's the voyeuristic side of live, right? There's the kids who just go live and dance in front of the camera or have a chat with their friends or do illegal substances or all the stupid things that people do on Instagram Live. And they get tens or hundreds or thousands of people watching because it's voyeuristic. It's like, oh, I'm sneaking a peek into somebody's private life. Mm-hmm. It's a lot of different reasons that people want to go live and can go live, and maybe some of them shouldn't be going live. But whatever, you've got the tools, you got the technology, you do it and you have some fun and see what happens. And maybe you get somewhere. Maybe you just blow up. Maybe the next major pop star comes out of YouTube Live because they're, well, I can kind of play this guitar and kind of sing. Maybe I'll go live one day and see what people think. And suddenly they're blowing up because, oh my God, not only am I getting to see it, I can interact with them. And that's the huge part about live is it's a two-way stream. Right? Yeah. Anybody can upload a video to YouTube and it's very one way. If they monitor the chat, then it's the comments, then it's kind of two-way, sort of, but it's way after the fact. Live, it's real-time two-way conversation. Your viewers are saying, hey, that sounded really cool. How did you make that sound on the guitar? What chord is that? What kind of guitar is it? Where'd you learn to do that? And it's a complete interactive experience, and that changes everything.
Yeah. Well, speaking of interacting in the chat, Tim Ingle is in the chat right now, and he's saying your audio is still low. So.
Well, thank you, Tim Ingle.
So in real time, Tim is affecting This Week in Photo from
nice. Nice. He's going to work on that.
Yeah.
What I think is interesting about video for the listeners of this show is just 5 years ago or whatever, people would post their images on Instagram or Flickr or whatever. And then they started to say, well, let's do blog posts, or maybe that's 10 years ago. And they make blog posts showing other people what they're doing with their images. And then it's like, oh, it's not too difficult to do my own podcast. And a lot of people did that. But just in the last year or two, it's become so easy for people to show everything they're doing when they're going out to shoot through video. And usually it's not live streamed, but there are so many people that are really doing a great job showing everything they're doing when they're out shooting and how they do it and the resulting images. And I think that's really the future for photographers, like amateur photographers that want to show everyone else what they're doing with their photography. I think a lot of people could do that now. The technology is there, and YouTube makes it easy enough to do.
Yeah, I want to talk about platforms in a second, but you hit on a good point, Chris, and that's the fact that the technology is there. When I first started getting, before I relaunched TWiP and I was trying to get my brain around live streaming and all that stuff, Joseph was like was my emotional bandage to get through this. And one of the pieces of kit that he introduced me to was from a company called Epiphan, and it's a device called a Webcaster X2. I didn't even know this device existed until I spoke with Joseph, and it's this little $300 box. Doesn't even need a computer. You authenticate it against your Facebook or your YouTube account, plug a camera into it, tell it I want to, give it a Wi-Fi connection, whether it could be tethered to your phone or, connected to another Wi-Fi or plugged in through Ethernet, and go. And you're streaming from anywhere on the planet.
Wow.
Of course you can stream with your phone, but this means you could plug in your GH5, your G7, your Sony A6000, whatever, into this thing and get that beautiful look and stream it from wherever you are, So I was thinking when I saw that, I'm like, this thing is $300. It democratizes professional streaming in a lot of ways. So what does that mean going forward? That you could just throw this thing in a bag, set everything up on a tripod, and do a show in front of Buckingham Fountain in Chicago.
That's right. Yeah,
you can
absolutely
literally do that, right?
Yeah, you can, but remember that we're talking about the hardware. It's the same as talking about the camera and saying, now I'm a photographer.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Just because you buy a $10,000 Canon, Nikon, whatever, and a bunch of lenses, and you go out and start shooting, that doesn't make you a professional photographer, right? You could be a really good photographer and go out with an iPhone and create amazing images. Or you can be a crappy photographer and have $10,000 worth of gear and still create crap images. It's the same thing with streaming. It's no different. Just because you have the hardware doesn't mean you're a broadcaster. It doesn't mean that you're somebody that people are going to want to watch. Just like it doesn't mean you're going to be able to make images that people want to look at.
Right.
There's
I
still
remember
that whole talent behind it.
Yeah, when Frederick first said, we're going to talk about some video on here, the very first thing I thought is probably like around TWiP 50 or something like that. I remember listening, and like the 5D Mark II came out, and I remember on the show everyone's like, I'm going to do video now. I'm a videographer. This is great. Like, I know composition. I hit the button and I'm good. And I remember thinking, oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And then like going out and being like, oh no, I have no idea what I'm doing. Yeah.
I blame all of that on Vincent LaFerre. It's his fault for making everyone think that they could shoot video like Vincent LaFerre. Right?
Exactly. Yep.
So yeah, you're right. Buying an expensive set of pots and pans doesn't make you, a gourmet chef, and spending a lot of money on camera gear doesn't make you a great photographer. But what the streaming stuff does, I think, is as the tools mature, it lowers the bar, just like the internet. It lowers the bar to people that had a message, but were too afraid to walk through that pet cemetery thicket, to get to the other side. Now they can presumably create a show and stream and maybe become the next YouTube sensation. Whereas previously, Joseph, and I just stuck my toe in the water and froze it off, right? It's like, it's not, it seems easy when you look at people online that are live streaming, but it is not easy at all, right? So, are we there yet, Joseph? Are we at a point where streaming is democratized enough that anyone can get in with a couple bucks?
Well, it is, because you can do it just from your phone.
Right.
That makes it possible. It's 2 or 3 taps from unlocking your phone and you're live on Facebook or live on Instagram or live on YouTube. It's remarkably simple to do. And it's remarkably simple to improve that. The first thing you add is a microphone, and suddenly you sound 100 times better than you did when you weren't using a dedicated microphone. And then maybe you decide, it's time to move beyond the cell phone streaming, and then you move up to something like the X2 that you're talking about. Plug in your DSLR, DSLM camera and see what you get out of it. It doesn't have to be expensive to progress, but anybody out there who's thinking about this, I will warn you right now, and Frederick knows this absolutely. It is a long, slippery slide. You step on that thing, and before you know it, you're thousands of dollars in going, but all I need is this one more piece of gear, and then I can, but if I just have this, but if I have that, yeah. Have you seen this place around me? This is how it got to this way. Because every time I turn around, it's like, oh, okay, if I had this, then I could add that, and then I could do this, and that allows me to do that on the show. Yes, I'm in.
It's always, this is it, Joseph. It's always like this, right? It's like, I'm almost there. If I just had this thing, everything will be okay.
Well,
But
I'm smart enough to know that it's not everything will be okay. It's not that I'm, that's the last thing I need, but there's always ideas of, oh, if I do this, then I can do X. And then
right.
it's like, I can add that to the show. That's another element, another layer to the show that I can
Right.
do. And it's little things. It doesn't have to be huge. Like one of the next purchase that I need to make, well, the last one that I made was a rolling tripod for the camera that's the kind of the studio camera that rolls around. So that just used to be on regular tripod, and to move it, you had to pick it up and move it, which meant you couldn't move it during a live shot, right? You had to pull the camera away from it, or it was this big janky bouncing the camera out. So now that one's on wheels. It can move during the live shot. Great. It just adds another dimension to the whole show.
Yeah.
The next thing that I need to do is go wireless headphones. I'm on earphones for monitoring. I monitor the show, but I'm tethered right now. I'm tethered to my mixer. So if I need to walk around, I have to physically unplug, and then I'm off ears. I can't hear what's going on anymore. So I have to trust that everything is going right. I got to go wireless on that. Well, that's like a $350 purchase, and that's for the cheap one, right? To go wireless on your ear monitors. So all these little things, you go, oh, well, that's all I need is just that. Exactly. And it just,
it depends on where you're going and what your ultimate goal is for this. Like again, back to the mom's apple pie example. If you just want to show people you're cooking, you could do it relatively simple, like you were saying with an Android or an iOS device. But if you want your stream to look like a cooking show, you need multiple cameras. You need a top-down camera on this thing, and while you're mixing, and you need lav mics so you can move around. You got to have studio lighting in there. It gets you can, and it adds up. And then when you start buying stuff, then there's a range of quality that you can purchase.
Oh, yes, there is. Like
so you can buy the cheap thing.
$350 monitor. That's the cheap one.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's crazy. But I want to, Chris, I want to start with you on this next thing. So I want to transition. I want to talk about the platforms, and I want to talk about the gear. Or not the gear, but in terms of like the GH5, like Joseph, you have a GH5 there, so I want to talk about that a little bit. But the platforms are concerning to me, and this is a devil's advocate standpoint on this. So you've got Google, right, which is the world's #1 and largest and most influential search engine, and arguably more powerful than lots of governments, maybe, right, in terms of being able to influence opinions with search results. And then we've got the second largest search engine, which is YouTube, also owned by Alphabet or Google, right? So that's a lot of power in one spot. From a streaming standpoint, do we have a democratization really, or is Google controlling the streaming market right now? I know there's Twitch out there for gamers, but when I think streaming, I think YouTube Live. That's it. Are there any other alternatives? What do you think, Chris?
Oh man, you're way above my pay grade on this one. My answer is pretty much anyone listening to this show should just be using YouTube. Yes, unless you're doing games, and that's the way I am. I'm just like, all right, that works great. Let's do it. But there must be other levels below there. I just don't know what they are.
Yeah. Joseph, what do you think? I mean, you're the streaming expert, like literally, and you're on YouTube and you stream to Facebook.
Well, Facebook is the other option, right? Facebook does have a live platform as well. It's not as advanced. It's not as robust. In some regards, it does have some features over what YouTube has, but it is by and far an inferior product to YouTube. So there is that. And for a lot of people, that's good enough, right? What it does works for them. And there's nothing wrong with that. But it is pretty much the only other platform that's the kind of thing where you're going to go as a consumer, you're just going to go and look for videos. You've got Vimeo, which they acquired or merged with one of the live production producers. And they're kind of integrating a live thing into their platform, but it is a much higher end paid access type of thing. You have to spend, I don't remember, hundreds, if not close to $1,000 a year just to be able to live stream on the platform. So it's not something that's for everybody. And, frankly, as a content producer, I don't really want to go streaming there because I want to stream where the audience is. I'm going to go where the audience is. Yeah. Like, my show can go anywhere. I can take it to YouTube. I can take it to Facebook. I can take it to the next best thing as long as the audience is there. That's what I care about. The audience is there. And frankly, the money is there, right? There's got to be some kind of monetization strategy. I'm not a charity. I have to make a living. So at least through YouTube AdSense, it's not much, but I can make money there. And if I can add a factor of 10 to my followers and to my viewership, then suddenly the money becomes real money. and you add another factor of 10, and now it's really real money. So it's possible. That's not possible on Facebook right now. And anything new that comes along, they're going to have to offer the viewers a really good monetization strategy to get people to move to it.
Yeah, that's a good point, the monetization side of things. And I mean, TWiP has been around for what, 500 plus episodes. This is 506, right? And literally just about a week ago, I activated monetization on the TWiP YouTube channel. Just, up until then, I didn't have it on. Everything we do, as you guys know, is an experiment. So I just want to see, what does it look like? What kind of revenue is generated from all these views? Is it worth it? Should I turn it off? Do viewers hate it? Does my viewership go down because there are ads? Those are the questions that you have to kind of get in and try it before you can get an answer to.
Right.
But the question is motivation. And Joseph, we'll start with you with this. Well, motivation if someone's getting into this stuff, even if it's just a nugget in the back of their head, should they be thinking monetization in the long term? For the channel, like in other words, with TWiP, when I first started the TWiP YouTube channel, 10 years ago, whatever, should I have been like, okay, one day when I get above, what's their limit now? 10,000 subscribers or something?
1,000.
1,000. Once I get over 1,000 subscribers, I'm gonna, get Tesla payment money, from this thing. Should that have been my goal? Yeah, I mean, what do you think? I mean, or should it be more altruistic?
Should have, well, it certainly isn't anything about altruism. I don't know about should have. It's what you want out of it. If you're looking to do something to replace your day job, and if you've got a regular job and you have dreams of aspirations of being a live streaming star, then clearly you're gonna have to make a living. You can say all you want that you just want to do this for the love of it, but you have to make a living. So if you're going to do it for the love of it and keep your day job, then great, just do it for the love of it and don't turn on ads and be happy with that. But if you actually want to replace your day job with this dream, well, the dream's got to make money, man. Nobody lives for free.
Right.
We all got bills to pay and rent and food and all that good stuff. So you got to make money somehow. And the monetization through YouTube it's not a lot until you get into the really, really big numbers of subscribers. And at the lower levels, you're talking, if you got 1,000 subscribers, you're making like 10, $20 a month.
Yeah.
That's not buying anything. Right.
Yeah, it's not even gas money these days. Yeah.
And it's, of course, that's assuming that you're putting out a lot of content that's getting a relative number of views, right? If you're putting out one video a month and you've got 1 million subscribers, well, if all 1 million of them watch it and you got 1 million views, okay, well, now you're going to make a little money. But if you've got all these subscribers and you hardly ever put out content, well, then, it's nothing. But if you're putting out stuff every week or even every day or whatever your schedule is, then there's a real opportunity to make money there.
What's the right frequency for publishing on YouTube?
There is no right frequency. It's consistency. That's the key. And you'll hear that pretty much universally across everybody who gives advice on YouTube, of which there are plenty of YouTube channels telling you how to run your YouTube channel. And one of the key things you'll hear over and over again is consistency. If you can do it once a month, fine. And that's probably a little low, but do it once a month. If you're going to do it on the 15th of the month, get that video out on the 15th. Don't be late, because your subscribers, once you build up an expectation, they want to see that there.
And is it the same? Is it the same mindset for streaming and video on demand? In other words, okay, I'm gonna, like your show, you stream at a certain day.
Yep.
All the time at that, so people know if they show up there, they're going to see Photo Joseph.
Exactly.
But with recorded shows, should it be the same, where you switch it from unlisted to public at the same time every week?
Yeah, absolutely. You look at a lot of big YouTubers, and they'll see right in their banner, it'll say something like new shows every Thursday and Sunday.
Exactly.
New episodes every Thursday and Sunday. They're releasing on the same day and close to the same time. That's what they want, because their followers are there. They're waiting for it. Where's that video? It's noon, man. Where's that video? It's supposed to be here.
Yeah.
They're looking for it.
Yeah, it becomes part of their routine.
HBO to watch Game of Thrones Sunday night, and they go, "Oh, we decided to release it tomorrow instead." What? That's not okay, man.
Yeah. They would be rioting in the streets if Star Trek Discovery didn't release on time. Just saying. Yeah. And I'd be the one out there rioting.
I want to go back to what Photo Joseph was saying, though, about like, if you're going to try and make a living out of this, then you got to be like perfect about all of this. And I think that's like less than 1% of the people out there are thinking, oh, I want to like just go and make a living. And I think there's like 5% of the people that are like, I don't want any money ever. So there's like, I think, what's the number? 94% of the people are out there saying, I'd love to make a little bit of money. Maybe I could get enough to get a new lens in a few months or something like that.
Absolutely.
And I think that opportunity is available to everybody. And I think it's just as simple as the next time you go out and shoot, just video yourself a little bit and take some B-roll, shoot some of the things that you're photographing, but get video of it and put that together, make your own channel. And maybe it turns out you don't like doing it. Well, then don't do it anymore. Or maybe it turns out that it's really popular and eventually maybe you do quit your job, whatever. But that's the way to go about it. It's not like I'm going all in or nothing. Just try doing it. Yeah.
I wonder if people get unrealistic expectations being YouTube consumers first, looking at successful channels like Casey Neistat and MKBHD and Unbox Therapy and those guys. And they're like, that looks easy. That's a camera. I could talk in front of the camera, why not, and get free stuff to talk about? I could just do that. And I'm going to make $1 gazillion, but they go in with that unrealistic expectation that their end result is going to be the same as those guys when they don't have the same ingredients to bake their cake. Right.
And I think people go, well, that's not fair. Like, how did they get lucky? And how did that, I didn't get lucky. Like, no, they're actually awesome at what they do. And you're not really that great.
It took a long time.
And it took a ton of work. Yes.
Exactly. MKBHD, didn't he start when he was like 14 or something like that? And he's only in his 20s now. I mean,
I don't know. Every time I look at him, I see a 14-year-old. I don't know. I'm like, look at this kid. He's like amazing at what he does. It just makes me feel bad about myself. So.
Well, there's always that aspect of social media too, right? All social media.
So
I suck.
I hate him for giving me all this great information that I'm going to act on.
For a lot of people, it does mean a long trudge up. It's a long path to success. You always hear about the overnight success. Oh, overnight success in Hollywood. Oh, this actor went from nobody to suddenly being a huge star. Yeah, but they were a nobody for 10 years.
Right, a 10-year overnight success. Yeah,
exactly. And so it's the same thing on YouTube. It's no different. Maybe you do see a significant overnight jump because something big happens. You release some video that just for whatever reason goes viral and it's getting shared everywhere, and suddenly you go from 1,000 to 100,000 subscribers. Or maybe someone really big shares your channel and talks about it, and suddenly you've got this huge bump that you didn't have before. And there's to that degree, there's a little bit of an overnight, but that overnight bump, are they going to come back and see and keep watching your stuff every day? Are they going to be there all the time? Maybe not. But if you're doing slow, organic, consistent growth, then hopefully that growth will continue. Hopefully it will accelerate at least a little bit, and you'll add 10,000 in a year, and then maybe 20,000 the next year, and maybe 30 or 40,000 more the next year. And suddenly, before you know it, maybe 5 years, but you're at 100,000 subscribers going, okay, well, you know what? That's a car payment. And it's 2 car payments. And then suddenly you're making your house payment, and it adds up, but it takes time. And you got to have.
And I wonder, and I put this out to both of you guys, that is a great scenario, and that's the fairy tale that everybody wants to see, that kind of exponential growth in their following. But then what happens when YouTube gets MySpace or Google Plus?
I was going to ask Photo Joseph that. Yes.
Yeah. So you build up, you spend all this equity. Sure. Yes, of course, you can aim your channel, you can aim your broadcast wherever you want. But what happens when YouTube either goes away or Google says we're changing it into a television network and everything's changed? What happens? I mean, do you start from square one?
Well, if you've been building a following, then your followers hopefully come with you, because wherever you go to broadcast, you go, okay, well, YouTube's not going to do it. Then I'm going to go to this other new service that came out that is also monetizing. I'm going to tell everybody, hey, I'm over here at this new channel, this new resource. This is where you can find me.
Yeah, the party's over here now.
Because you guys like it. I've built up these 10 or 100 or million followers, and now it's time to move on to somewhere else. Hey,
if you can still contact them. If the platform hasn't, they could yank an entire channel and say, you violated this and this, your channel is done, and they'll never see another video from you.
This is true, but let's be honest. If you can pull a Logan Paul and still be on the air for a month,
sure,
then I don't think there's a whole lot of risk of just getting completely shut down out of nowhere. Yeah. And you got to do something pretty damn stupid to be able to just get completely yanked. I mean, come on.
You're right. You're right.
Twice in a row, so insanely stupid, and now the worst thing he's got is he's demonetized for a period of time. No, that's probably going to cost him over $1 million, but he's still there. It's not like his subscribers can't follow him. And let's remember too that anybody who's big on YouTube or any other channel, that's not the only place they're known. They also have their Twitter following, their Facebook, their Instagram. And yeah, okay, if YouTube just went up in a puff of smoke, I'd be able to tell everybody across all my other platforms, say, hey, YouTube went away, but this is where we're going. Come meet me over here. The party just moved, and spread the word. And here we are.
Yeah, we were really going down a rat hole on this, but
no, this is good. This is a good rat hole.
But I think the best answer to this is that, and I see a lot of YouTubers doing it, is that they do a video and it says these are the top 3 tips on how to do blah blah blah. If you'd like the other 7 tips, go download the PDF on my website, because now they're on their email list, and now you have them.
Yeah, I think Steve Brazel in the chat brought that up. I was going to echo that. Yeah, I think Joseph, you said, yeah, you could just go to your other social media platforms and redirect them to where the new party's at. I agree with that to a degree, but I also agree with Chris that, and Steve Brazel, that having and owning the subscriber is the only way to really insulate yourself against nerds in high places making choices about how you're going to pay your mortgage, right?
Without a doubt, the very, very best social media platform is email.
Yeah.
If you're to get to people.
Yeah. Email is dead. Long live email.
Well, yeah, and that's that, right? Yes, you're absolutely right. Today, that email list, that platform is still, even though it's the oldest one out there, it is still probably the best way to get to people. But it is declining. People, how many times a day do you hear, I hate email, I hate email? Don't send me an email. People are getting really tired of email. I've hired some young people who don't even have an email address.
Oh, wow.
Like, why would I have an email address?
I'm old.
Why would I have a mailbox? Like,
why would I have one of those?
Real one.
You got me on Twitter or Facebook. What else do you need?
Wow, that is crazy.
So you do have to hit it all. You really do.
Yeah. There's no one right magic bullet that if you have this thing, then all will be okay with the world. Look at this. We're deep into this. We got like 15 minutes left, 10 or 15 minutes left. I want to take some time to talk about the GH5, Joseph, because that's a new release from Panasonic. And you were one of the first people to get their hands on one of those things.
Actually, sadly, that's not true. I was one of the first people to have the specs, but I only got my hands on the thing, 2 days ago.
Oh, I had mine like a month ago, I think. Oh no, the GH5S. No, never mind.
Wow.
I was gonna say,
I'm just trying to push buttons here. Sorry.
Don't make Joseph get upset. He'll be on the phone right after this.
Not on air.
Sending one of those archaic emails into Panasonic.
It was a joke.
I know. No. But Joseph, I know you did a show a while back on your channel, your YouTube channel, and when they first announced the GH5S, which is the newest version, which a lot of people thought was the newest version of the GH5, which would obsolete the GH5, which a lot of people, myself included, just got. So, but that's in your first initial response, you were saying that that's not the case. The GH5 is for someone else. Can you explain that to the folks that are out there? I mean, there's a ton of new camera releases that have come out, but specifically, I know you got your hands on the GH5, so I'm asking you that. So can you?
For sure. Yeah, the easiest way to look at it is it's a companion camera. It is not one that you're going to have instead of a GH5. The GH5S is a companion camera, and it does a few things, very specific things that it does differently than the GH5. The main purpose of the camera is that it's a low light beast. It is designed for low light shooters as number one. Number two is designed for serious film shooters, people who are actually shooting commercials and movies and stuff like that, who aren't going to rely on the in-body stabilization, who are attaching their camera to gimbals and other types of stabilizing rigs, much bigger and much better than what any camera can do internally. And the reason that that's important, we'll start with the second one. The reason that's important is because on the GH5, the sensor moves, right? It is a stabilized sensor, and the way that it moves is magnets. It's literally floating on a field of magnetic pulses, or whatever they call it. Anyway, it's floating on a field of magnets that move it around to keep it stable, but then essentially tighten to hold it to keep it from not moving. But there's no physical clamp. There's no hand that reaches up and grabs onto that sensor to keep it from moving so that it can't move at all. When it's floating on a field of magnets and you hit the camera hard enough, you bump it hard enough, that sensor will still move. So if you're doing something like mounting it onto a car, then it will, as the car bounces, the sensor is going to bounce with it, as opposed to the camera just bouncing with the car. There's a great example someone did on YouTube where they took a GH5 and a GH5S and they strapped them pointing at themselves in a kind of an ATV type vehicle and went driving over these bumpy roads. And it was unbelievable how the difference was. The GH5 with stabilization turned off, but again, that sensor is going to move. I'm seeing that little bit of movement in there, and it just gives a little bit of smear to the frames versus the GH5S. No stabilization. The sensor is locked down, and it is completely locked in place, totally solid, and it's a much cleaner image.
Interesting.
So for cases like that, you don't want stabilization. It's a hindrance. And so they took that out because there's a certain market segment that needs a camera that doesn't have the stabilization. Yeah. There's a market segment that was buying GH4s instead of GH5s because the GH4 didn't have in-body stabilization. And they went, no, we can't use the GH5. We have to buy GH4s. So there's that part of it.
Yeah, that's what I'm actually looking at you through a GH4 right now.
There you go. Once you take out that in-body stabilization, a couple things happen. One of them is that you have more room for a sensor because the sensor's not moving. The Micro Four Thirds format was designed from the very, very beginning to be a stabilized platform. Even though it didn't necessarily happen right away, the design was there for that. The specs were there so that the sensor would eventually be able to move. Now that they can move, if we decide that we don't want it to move, well, suddenly we have space because we don't have to have room on all four sides for that sensor to bounce into. So we can actually put in a larger sensor. So the sensor that's in the GH5S is slightly larger than a Micro Four Thirds sensor, than your traditional sensor.
Well, the other piece, the other tent pole that they were talking about, and I saw some videos on YouTube about this, was the low light sensitivity. And that's been the Achilles heel of the Micro Four Thirds format for a while, right? Where you get full frame physics states that can scoop up more light, therefore more sensitive. Micro Four Thirds is smaller, so worse low light performance. Has it improved to the degree where it is now, at least attempting to compete with Sony on any of this on low light performance?
I can't compare to Sony because that's not what I do on my channel. There's plenty of other people that do that. As a Lumix ambassador, I don't go comparing to the competition. It's just a bad form for us. But it is remarkably good. And to your point, the sensor is physically larger, and just not by much, but it is physically larger. So we do have a little bit more space on there. But more importantly, they're packing less pixels. If you were from a still photography perspective, it's only a 10 megapixel camera. It is a lower resolution camera, which means the photo sites can be physically larger, which means they have better low light gathering capability, lower noise per area, whatever it is. So you've got I guess, lower signal to noise ratio, I guess is what that would be called. But you've got a much cleaner image to start with. And then you add on top of that the dual native ISO. And I've just started, because I just got the camera, I just ran some tests today, and that's the setup you see me behind me here, comparing the native 2500 ISO to the native 400 ISO. And all I'll tell you right now, because I haven't finished looking at everything, but what I'll tell you is that just from a practical perspective, at 400 ISO with the setup that I set up, just a couple of lights, nothing fancy, at 400 ISO, I could shoot at f4.5. At 2500 ISO, I could shoot at f11. So at f11, I've got a lot more depth of field. Now, obviously, that's kind of the opposite of what a lot of people want for a lot of things, but some stuff you're doing, you need that depth of field. So now you've got 2500 ISO being able to shoot at f11 in this particular scenario, and it looks virtually indistinguishable from the 400. Really? Side by side. It's amazing how clean it is.
Wow. So you see, that's magic. That's magic to a former film shooter that had to carry, T-Max and Tri-X in my bag,
It's a different world.
It's a different world. Kids today, man, you don't know how good you got it.
Yeah. I mean, that was a lot of numbers that just came out there, and that was about the GH5S. But I'll just say that I'm amazed at how many professional photographers, like full-time pros that I know, that have gone to the GH5 or going to the GH5S and are telling me I'm never going back. And I'm like, really? What? Small sensor? And no, and they're like event photographers, portrait, wedding photographers. They're like, this is what I'm shooting. I honestly am never going back to my Canon and Nikon. It's really crazy.
Yeah. It's interesting. That's a whole nother
weight difference.
Go ahead, Joseph.
The size and weight and even the cost difference is so remarkable when you compare even the absolute top end mirrorless cameras, whether you're talking about Olympus, Micro Four Thirds, whether you're talking about Olympus or Panasonic. The top end cameras are basically the cost of kind of a mid-range Canon, Nikon, and their top-end cameras come in at 2, 3, 4 times the cost and weight.
Right.
It's incredible.
There's just like a happy factor. The people that have switched to that, they're just like, I'm happier now. Lighter, easier, everything seems faster. Yeah.
That was when I very first started playing with Micro Four Thirds, and this is now 5 or 6 years ago. When I very first started playing with it, that was exactly one of the key things. It was fun. I enjoyed shooting with it. It was a smaller, compact camera that it was just easier to shoot with, more fun to shoot with. It had all this cool tech in it. It was just fun.
It's your fault that I got involved in Micro Four Thirds, Joseph. So,
yeah. But back then I was like, oh, that'll be fun for like when I'm on vacation and stuff. But just in the last year or two, it's like, wait, you're a professional wedding photographer. That's what you're, or you're it's crazy what I've seen.
Yeah, that is interesting. All right, so let's switch off of that, guys, while we have a couple minutes left. I want to talk about, Chris, your Out of Chicago conference, and one of the reasons why I wanted both of you guys on the show is, Chris, you run the thing. You're the master of ceremonies over there.
If it gets screwed up, it's my fault. Sorry.
In the big top, and then Joseph, you're going to be there speaking. So Joseph, tell us about I want to start with Joseph. Joseph, tell us about your talk, and then Chris, just give us, people that may not have heard of Out of Chicago, what it's all about and why it's kind of the unconference. So Joseph, why don't you go first?
Well, this is going to be brief because Chris and I just spoke earlier today to start hashing out what my topics would be, and we don't.
Well, let's just do it here together. Let's all do it together.
That was better than talking about it tomorrow, I guess. Yeah,
it's better than talking about it tomorrow. Yeah. So no, I don't know exactly what we're going to be doing, but one of the focuses of the conference is going to be street photography, and we are in Chicago. The whole point is we are going to be doing photo walks. There's going to be classroom as well as photo walks, and so I will be doing both of those. Exactly what I'm going to be talking about on a very precise level hasn't been decided yet, but absolutely I'll be doing photo and video. We'll be focusing on street, maybe some cityscape type of things. We have daytime, we have dusk shooting we can do. It's frankly, it's a lot of fun. If I wasn't going to speak at it, I think I'd have to fly out there to attend it, because
I think you should live stream. You should live stream your photo walk piece of it and title it "Streaming in the Streets."
Oh,
well, I'll put a Mevo
that could go sideways. Depending.
I'll put a Mevo on my shoulder. I need like a little parrot, like a stuffed parrot that's on my shoulder. Mevo camera in that, and I can walk around and have this Mevo.
Do that.
Maybe we'll just have someone else carry a camera. I think that might work better. Yeah. We'll have a lot of people there.
Joseph is used to the one-man band thing. So he's like, what can I strap to myself so that I can do this all by myself?
Yeah. No, so we're going to have Joseph teaching, doing video stuff, and really doing like some video stuff for people that don't do video. So, like to bridge that gap between TWiP 50, when we said, oh my goodness, I'm a videographer now, and actually getting some great video. Because if you could know just 2 or 3 tips, it's amazing what you can put together for a video. And I mean, we've been doing an Out of Chicago YouTube channel now, and we've been doing video to promote our stuff. And it's so much fun. It reminds me of when I was first learning photography, now to learn video. And it's like, just learning a new thing and seeing it work. It's like, oh, this is great. So I think people are really going to enjoy doing that this summer.
Yeah, that's going to be great. And then with the video stuff, it's funny. I mean, you stick around long enough and you start seeing patterns in the chaos, right? And there was the resistance of the Gutenberg press, and then there's a resistance of cameras to real art, and then the resistance of color over black and white, and then the resistance of raw over JPEG, digital, which is better, and then Micro Four Thirds over full frame, and now streaming over or video over still photography, and yet another skill that photographers need to stick in their tool belt. All right, here's the last question to both of you guys. Most of the show has been about video, right? So does this mean that we are now firmly in the era where it is a requirement for content creators, whatever stripe they be, to know video editing? Is that now kind of like it used to be, like on your resume, you better have Microsoft Word on there, or else is now having Final Cut Pro, Premiere, or something like that on there a prerequisite for content?
This is a photo Joseph question.
Yeah. So you're saying video editing, not video shooting, because those are 2 totally different things.
Well, I would argue that they're very close, right? Unless you're rich enough to hire an editor to take care of all your editing, right?
Well, it's not a case about being rich enough. I mean, if you're going to play with video and you're just dabbling, then you're going to learn how to edit a little bit as well, and you're going to play with that. But it's just like editing your still photos. You can go out and shoot a great composition with a really good camera and have what should be a really good photograph, but you start with this raw file that's flat, undersaturated. It needs work, right? It needs work. And only a good editor can make that look good. And usually the photographer is going to be their own editor. They're going to usually edit that. They might farm it out, or they might have somebody else that does special work to it. But for the most part, the photographer is probably going to do that. In the world of video, it's a bit different, though. When you're starting out, sure, you might play with the editing a little bit, but if you get good enough and big enough, it's quite common to have somebody else edit it for you, especially if you're talking a commercial production. Okay, if you're talking about your vlog, then that's probably going to be you. But if you're talking about a commercial production, well, the person who shoots it, you know, any kind of major video production is not a one-man band. It's not a one-man operation.
Yeah.
You've got possibly multiple camera shooters on set. You've got producers and directors and stylists and lighting techs and sound techs. And then there's the editor that's going to put it all together. It's probably not going to be you. So,
but taking it down a notch to the photographer, like Chris was saying, the photographer that's just now getting re-excited over photography, and maybe they picked up a GH5 or a GH5S or whatever, and they're like, wow, this is amazing. I'm taking all these great photos. Oh, I can also shoot really high quality 4K video if I want to. I want to start experimenting with that. When they get bitten by that bug, is that the time when, okay, now it's a prerequisite to start learning Final Cut Pro or Premiere?
Sure.
Yeah.
And you can start with something simple, right? You can start with iMovie.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. We did a trip. We did a cruise. I shot the entire thing on my GoPro, and then I put it, use the connector, put it onto my every day, put it back onto my iPad, and did iMovie on there. And it's amazing what you get at the end of it. And it's like I had come back at the end of our trips usually and be like, oh, here's a couple hundred photos. But to be like, here's a 2.5-minute video showing all the best short clips from the whole thing. It was phenomenal. And it was all because I'm like, I want to do the YouTube channel. I just want to practice it. But when it was done, it was like, wow, that is really something special.
Yeah.
And you can put your stills in there as well, right? It doesn't have to just be video. You can make a movie that has some of your still pictures too.
Yeah.
Yeah. And Joseph, there's a bunch of reviews on your site. Didn't you do a review over some iOS video editing software?
LumaFusion. LumaFusion is basically like Final Cut on your iPad. It's incredible.
That's crazy. That's crazy. And then there's another device you did, the Narbox, which allows you to They're
going to be out of Chicago, by the way.
Oh, Narbox is going to be there? Oh, cool.
Yeah. Awesome.
Tell us what the Narbox is, because I have one. I just haven't played with it
yet. Photo Joseph, tell us.
Tell us what it is. Mine's in the other room. I'd grab it for you. The Narbox is essentially, it's a hard drive with a card reader built into it, or at its most basic level for copying images, stills, or video from your memory card to the internal hard drive. But then it also has its own built-in Wi-Fi hotspot and its own computer processor inside of it. So you connect to your phone or your tablet, and you can view your video and view your stills on it, but then you can actually edit them as well. So you can, just using the Narbox's own software, you can do a very basic edit of your video. And the whole idea here is it's for putting out dailies. It's kind of I've been out on the mountain skiing all day. I got all this great GoPro and drone footage, whatever. I want to bring this all in, and I want to quickly cut together something that I can push to Instagram. I don't need my laptop. I can literally do it with the Narbox and my iPhone and have this basic video cut together, throw some music on it, and off we go. And it's a really cool device in the sense that it allows you to not have to carry the laptop, to pop in your memory card and hit copy, and then attach it to your bag, hanging off the back of your bag, and keep on walking. It's all shockproof and weatherproof and all that. So you can literally just have it hanging outside your bag, ingesting footage while you're walking around. So that's pretty slick in itself. And then you've got that backup right away as well. So if you're doing stuff that's critical, you're not worrying about, oh my God, I'm carrying around a pocket full of cards. What happens if I lose one or one gets damaged? Now you got a backup as you go. It's a really neat device. Really
I love it. That's really cool. Yeah. All right, guys, let's wrap things up. Chris Smith, if people are interested in heading over to out of Chicago, what are the dates? What's the price? And all that good info.
All the good stuff. So the dates are June 22nd through the 24th. Scott Kelby is doing the opening keynote. Photo Joseph's going to be there. Aaron Nace from Fleur and Tony Sweet. Our friend Steve Simon, Ralph Velasco, tons of people. I have 20, 30 different people there teaching, leading stuff. If you want to find out more information, you go to outofchicago.com. We're actually not open for registration right now, but if you go there, you can download. I did the the second edition of the Photographer's Guide to Chicago. You can see all the amazing places you can come shoot, and that's a free download on our site. So if you go there, you can download that. And Photo Joseph's going to be putting out information as soon as the registration opens up, and we will as well. So yeah, so make sure you're signed up on one of those places, and you'll find out everything that goes with it. The price it is $500, but we'll be giving some good discounts away too as soon as we make that launch.
Very cool.
And I'll say last thing. Sorry, that
yeah, go for it.
In the past, we've always done it where it's like, hey, it's only $200, but then this photo walk is this much more, and this one's this much more, and you want to do a mini workshop, that's a little bit more even. We decided, you know what, we're going to raise the price, but everything is included. So you sign up for your ticket, and everything comes with it.
That's really cool. Yep. That is really cool. And let me know when you open up registration. We'll help get the word out as well. So
awesome. Yeah. Thank you, Frederick.
You're welcome. You're welcome. And Photo Joseph, where would you like people to go to connect with you? Like one of your I mean, you're like a solar system. Like which planet would you like them to go to?
Go to Planet YouTube. YouTube.com/PhotoJoseph. It's Photo Joseph everywhere, which is the nice thing. So that's on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, YouTube. Everywhere is Photo Joseph. The web, just type Photo Joseph in, and you can't miss me.
Awesome.
We have to be able to spell Lanashki or not? No?
What was that?
He said it right. He said it right. Lanashki. See that?
Don't ask me to spell it, but yeah. Hopefully I get it right on the website when we go to promote it.
Yeah, the Q
Joseph makes it easy.
The Q is silent. Oh yeah, that's what you got to remember.
The Q is silent. Right? The Q, the G, and the double L. They're all silent.
Hey, people misspell Johnson. I can imagine how butchered your name gets in Starbucks, man.
Yep. No, I was telling him earlier, Chris Smith. It's like the most boring name. No one gets it wrong, but you try and Google me, you'll never find me.
Oh no, yeah. You're like, where's Waldo with that name? Right?
That's fine by me.
So, like you try to go through airport security, you're like, really, sir?
Yes. No. When did you live in New York City? You're like, I didn't. Like, tell the truth. I did it. It's happened. Yep.
Yeah, these common names. Mm-hmm. All right, guys. All right, thanks to both of you guys for coming on. I appreciate it. It's been a really good conversation. This was an informal TWiP. I kind of like this flow of just, not having a grid to walk down. I think I may do more of these kind of shows.
Yeah, well, we like talking, so yeah, no problem. All right, thank you, Frederick.
You're welcome. All right, listeners, thanks to everybody who jumped in the chat for this show, and we'll put the links to everything we mentioned in the description for this YouTube post, as well as on thisweekinphoto.com, where you can find all of our shows and lots more. And with that, it is time to take that lens cap off. This is TWiP.